Yeah.
So that's kind of what I think about your second statement that scientific theories accurately describe the world and are based on evidence.
Oh man, not this again. Ugh. So we had this
So
conversation.
scientific
Oops.
theories are models. Models are
Yep.
imperfect.
I didn't say that they're perfect. I said that they accurately
So you said
describe
they
the world.
accurately.
Yeah, accurately.
No,
And like,
Newton's law
Define
doesn't
they come
define
out.
accurately
accuracy.
define the world at the atomic
Define
level.
accuracy.
Okay, you
Define
can if you
accuracy.
can miss by like 1,000 feet, then that's fine. Okay,
Define accuracy.
truth.
True. No, that is not the definition of accuracy.
What is?
See, the fact that you don't
So
know
if
what
you
it
shoot
is,
at a
but you
target
come
with
in
an
here and
arrow
you're
and
going to
you miss
tell
the
me
entire
that I'm
target, are
wrong
you
because
accurate?
I'm not describing something that is accurate proves that you don't know what you're talking about. So I
So
don't understand where
if
you get the
if I
confidence
put
for
a
this.
5 foot
So let's have a
belly
conversation
flop
about what
on a
accuracy
and shoot
means.
an arrow at
Let's
it and
say,
you miss the whole
yeah, I
target,
don't
are
know
you
why you're
accurate?
talking because I'm talking. Nobody can hear you. I can't hear you, and
Why
I
are
don't
you
care.
talking?
Okay,
Because I was
so let's have a
talking.
conversation about. Stop talking. Let's have a conversation about what accuracy is. Okay, if I'm measuring something and it is known to be 50 feet long, and I measure it 1,000 times, and 98 out of those 1,000 times I measure it to also be 50 feet. But then twice when I measure it, I get like 49.8 feet, and then once 50.2 feet. Is it correct to say that my measurements overall are inaccurate?
You are describing the central limit theorem.
It was a yes or no question.
No, it wasn't. I'm telling you, you're describing the central limit theorem.
Great.
Do you know what the central limit theorem is?
No, go ahead and tell us. You couldn't tell us what accuracy is, so it'd be weird if you could
So
describe
that all the
this.
measurements you made, if you do it an infinite number of times, it's going to approach the average.
Yeah.
But each individual
And
measurement was not necessarily accurate.
Sure, but overall, and that's what he was asking. Was he
therefore,
accurate or was he overall not accurate?
And some scientific theories attempt to explain individual events. And it just as you just explained, some of the measurements weren't the same. And who knew? You had the other assumption that you knew it was exactly 50 feet. And you can't know that in science.
okay, okay, sure. Like we make assumptions in science, we make assumptions when it comes to literally anything at all.
So I think, your
Like in
statement of
science, we have what's called an accepted
needs a
value, which is
few,
like a value that's been confirmed experimentally through the most precise possible measurements we can get.
but there's still a model.
Yeah, so what?
So they're imperfect by definition
It
Well,
does,
model.
yeah, of course they're imperfect. Could you
because
name
our
one
knowledge is
perfect thing?
imperfect.
Of course it's imperfect. That doesn't mean that we don't still get correct answers for things or describe things
But our knowledge
accurately.
can be perfect if it's perfectly revealed to us.
We could maybe talk about that later if you want to. So, um, do you think that germs cause disease?
Yes,
How do you know that?
because they've shown me what organisms look like underneath a microscope and attributed those organisms to specific diseases and outbreaks.
Yeah, but did
They've
you
also,
observe it
they,
happen?
yeah, I mean, I watched
Have
Sesame
you ever
Street.
observed E. coli infect an organism?
No, I haven't had the privilege.
Okay,
But I wouldn't
so we
eat
have what's called
crap
the
poop
germ
on my
theory
chicken.
of disease. So it sounds like you agree that the germ theory of disease does accurately describe some aspect of the world. Is
I
that a
think that's an
correct assessment?
observation, not exactly a theory.
The germ theory of disease is a
It's like
scientific theory.
it's like watching someone shoot someone in the street.
What?
Okay, so
That's
we're just gonna
different than a scientific theory.
we're gonna walk past that. So, anyways, it's called the germ theory of disease, and it sounds like you do agree that it accurately describes some aspect of the world. Correct?
It's not a theory. They're actually seeing it happen, and they can
It's
reproduce
called the
it
germ
happening.
theory of disease. Okay. So for you to say it's not a theory, I don't know why well, I know why you're doing that because I've proven to you that scientific theories actually can do this because there's a
All you're
scientific
doing
theory
is
that you've
stating what your
admitted
observations are.
does correctly describe something. So now you're just saying it's not a theory. So that's pretty funny. We can move on from there. A different scientific. So, should I go get? Nah, never mind. Okay, so
I mean, is there a
do
mathematical theory of
do
disease?
atoms exist, and are they made of subatomic particles?
That's what I'm told.
Okay. Do you deny it?
I don't have reason to deny it.
Okay, cool. So do you think that atomic theory accurately describes some aspect of the world?
It describes some activity of the world, but I don't think it imperfectly describes it because they still have problems with it
I
when you.
didn't say it has to be perfect. Nothing is
Well,
perfect.
that's what I'm
All it has to
saying.
do is accurately describe some
In my
aspect of the
mind,
world.
accuracy is perfection.
Well,
It's not.
very upset for a long time then.
If you and I, like, if you ever watch like the Olympics, they have archery competition. The
But we were
person
just
who's the
talking
most
about archery.
accurate wins. You don't have to win a gold medal by having every single arrow literally run into the back of your other arrow and perfectly be placed in the bullseye.
No,
Okay? That is
no.
not what accuracy
But
is.
science isn't a competition either. But
It's
accuracy is
extremely
hitting the
competitive.
bullseye in the dead center, which you couldn't even measure anyway because you can't see that small.
Like, for example, if you're
Okay?
making a prediction, would you say, let's say, like, I don't know, or we're trying to answer for something and we figure out it's 10.001. Okay, well, that's pretty accurate, but you're saying since it's not perfect, that wouldn't be right because we could go even more in detail. We could move that decimal point an infinite amount of times, add as many numbers to it as we want. It'll still never be perfect.
I
There is
just
no
want
such
to
thing as perfection.
my purpose is I just want to highlight that things are not as true as people um, gullibly believe.
Give us an example. Because you gullibly believe that germs cause disease and that atoms exist. So apparently you don't have problems with those ones. So which
Not
scientific
that I
theory
have a
do you
problem with
think
it.
that only the gullible people are falling for?
If you can identify an organism and you watch the man shoot the other man in the street, the man shot the man in the other street in the
Okay,
street.
so that had nothing to do with my question whatsoever. Tell us a scientific theory, even though you've admitted you've admitted that you just blindly believe in two of them. So what's one that only the sheep are falling for?
Oh, 2 + 2 = 4.
You disagree with that?
That's not a scientific theory. That's also true that 2 + 2 does equal 4. So I don't think you have to be a gullible person to believe that 2 + 2 equals 4. That's just my opinion. We'll leave it up to the viewers to decide, like, you know, whether or not I'm correct on that one or not. But anyways, what is a scientific theory other
But
than the germ theory
that
of
wasn't a
disease or
scientific
atomic theory,
theory. That was
which
a
you
scientific
believe in,
fact.
that you think is not true and only the sheep or gullible people, as you put it,
Oh,
are falling
scientific
for?
theory that, yeah, climate change.
Climate change is not a scientific theory. So
Yes, it
could you
is.
give us one? It's
Climate
not
change is
a
scientific
scientific
theory.
theory.
Yeah,
No.
They attribute it to
It's not.
methane. They attribute it to carbon monoxide, nitrous oxide,
No, they don't. They
and all
attribute it
these
to carbon
green
dioxide. It's
gases,
also not a scientific theory.
and methane,
We
and
can talk
nitrous
about this for a
oxide.
little bit, but it's
So
not a
I had
scientific theory, so it
training
doesn't
on
have
this.
anything to do with my question. But this is going to be so funny, just like all the other ones. So there are molecules that trap infrared radiation. They're called greenhouse gases. Is that statement true or is that statement false?
That's what they call them. Yes, it's true. That's what they call them.
It's not true it is true that that's what they call them, but I'm also making the claim that there are certain molecules, such as carbon dioxide and methane, that do really trap infrared radiation. They're called greenhouse gases. So, is it true that greenhouse gases exist and that they trap infrared radiation?
According to you, yes.
No, it's not according to me.
So
That's not how
if you
science works.
if you trap infrared radiation, you get more hurricanes.
You
You get
could
more floods.
theoretically, but overall, it traps more thermal energy. Earth gets its thermal energy from the sun,
I
and we have these
think
greenhouse
you get more
gases naturally
people
existing
that
in our
think that
atmosphere.
Earth is
Except
guided.
over the last 150 years, we've nearly doubled the amount of greenhouse gas in our atmosphere. So, if there are such things as greenhouse gases, which do trap infrared radiation, and we've almost doubled them, then you would expect there to be more thermal energy contained in the atmosphere. And climate and weather is dictated by interactions between the incoming energy we receive, the amount of energy that's absorbed by the surface, the amount of energy that's radiated into the atmosphere, and how much of that energy is trapped in the atmosphere. So,
So
what
we're
part of
worried
that
about carbon
do you
monoxide. I
disagree
don't have
with?
serious
What part of
evidence
that mechanism
or
do you
plant
disagree with?
matter.
I don't know what you said, but the question is, what
Totally
part
worried
of
about
that
carbon
overall
dioxide.
mechanism do you disagree with? What
So
part of that
I
overall
don't disagree
mechanism
with
do you
it. We're
disagree with?
really worried
Do
about
you disagree
carbon
that there is a sun?
dioxide.
Sorry?
There are many suns.
There are many stars, there's one sun. So, what
Yeah,
part of the
there's one
overall
sun that's
mechanism
constantly
about
changing, and the
infrared
sun is
radiation
constantly
being
changing.
be
It's not
interacting with
constant.
or can you stop talking while I'm talking? It's weird that you go into radio silence when I stop talking and then you talk while I am. So what part of the whole mechanism I explained where infrared radiation is captured by certain molecules in our atmosphere and that interaction is part of what shapes climate and weather. What part of that do you have a problem with?
Because it's not a perfect shield.
No,
Nobody
It
said anything
doesn't
about a
capture it
shield.
perfectly. And you
Greenhouse gases
and
don't shield us
you
from
can't
anything.
even
What they do is they
you can't
trap
even
infrared
quantify
radiation. That's about the
you
sixth
can't even
time I think I've
quantify
explained that that's what they do. The ozone layer shields us from a little bit of UV radiation, but not from infrared radiation. So, what part
they can't
of the
quantify
fact
it at
that the
that
sun
scale.
gives us infrared radiation, which is then absorbed by the surface of our planet and re radiated into the atmosphere, and that energy can be trapped by greenhouse gases, do you have a problem with? What part of that do you disagree with?
It isn't a car window, sir.
Okay, so you're talking about car windows, and I don't understand why. I'm
The
asking you what
Earth's
part of this
atmosphere
you
is
have a
not a car
problem with.
window, and it can't be measured at that scale.
Yeah, also 2 plus 2 equals 4. So, what part do you have a problem with?
The part that it can't be measured at scale.
what do you mean it
Why
can't?
not?
Oh, we, he just told you a measurement they've taken.
Show me, show me how much carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide is in the atmosphere at any given time, and how much
480 parts per
radiation is
million.
reflected, and you can measure it accurately at scale, and you
It's
can
like
measure it,
480
and
parts
then
per
you can
million.
make the so coincidence is not causation.
The phrase is correlation does not equal causation. I don't know what coincidence you're talking about.
That's why I phrased it that way.
Wow. Anyways, so we can you can measure the concentration of any gas in Earth's atmosphere, and it's done thousands of times in thousands of different locations repeatedly. So we have a lot of confidence about what the composition of Earth's atmosphere is. We have a lot of confidence about
large is the
how much
Earth's
CO2 there
atmosphere?
is, and we measure temperatures across millions of different parts of Earth's surface, and we do it millions of
How
different
large is the
times.
Earth's atmosphere?
How large is it?
Yeah.
What how would that help us?
And how large are their instruments? So you're taking point measurements
Do you know how
on
random
something that's
sampling works?
completely huge, and you
Okay,
decide
it
that you
I think you're
know
making
about what's
the this
completely huge.
accuracy fallacy again. You're demanding complete omniscience, and then you're going to say, well, if we don't have omniscience, then I'm just going to deny it, which is really stupid. Do you know how random sampling works?
Well, you need a lot of random samples to measure the Earth's
No, you
atmosphere.
don't need a
And
lot of random samples.
I don't think they're measuring enough of them. And then they're using the, okay, this is what's happening,
Oh my
and
God.
oh, that's
Okay,
causation.
let's do an analogy
And it's
together.
a
Let's say
one-time
we go
event.
to 100 different locations in the Pacific Ocean and we sample the water in the Pacific Ocean. And in every one of those samples, we get a salinity concentration of somewhere between 3.3 and 3.5%. So we could therefore conclude, as long as we did the sampling randomly, that the overall salinity concentration of the Pacific Ocean is between 3.5 and 3.3%. Right? Now, if somebody made the alternative claim, you don't know that it isn't 10% somewhere else or 0% somewhere else. That would really be an unfounded claim, right?
Well, where fresh water enters it, it's probably 0%. So it's not perfectly average, the entire surface. And that's guaranteed.
Yeah, that's a guarantee.
It's just an
That
accuracy.
that was ridiculous.
Yeah, and when hurricanes rain on the ocean, the surface loses its salinity.
Do you know how much water there is in the ocean compared to how much water is trapped in a hurricane?
Well, I said the surface loses its salinity. I didn't say how much.
Oh boy. So you're having a problem thinking at scale here. So, anyways,
No, I think
we talked about that longer than I wanted
scale.
to because it had nothing to do with what I brought up earlier. So, again, going back, having admitted that you believe in two scientific theories, what is another scientific theory? Keep in mind that climate change is not a scientific theory that you think only the gullible people are falling for.
Another one? How many do I have to come up with?
Literally one. You have yet to do that.
I just came up
so if
with
we could just get one,
change.
then that would be pretty good.
I just came up with climate change, and you didn't believe me.
Yeah, so for the third time, I'm going to tell you, actually, this is the fourth or fifth time, that is not a scientific theory. So.
Okay, well, I have to go cook my chicken. Thank you.
Alrighty then. It always so convenient. They always leave right when they do something. Jeez. So convenient.